Hello, everyone. I'm Sheriff Corey Honea, and this is another episode of the Sheriff's Mic. This is a pretty cool episode because we have today with us Nick Russell, the Chief Operating Officer of Watch Duty. You know, over the last decade or so, it seems like California has been plagued with wildfires, and Butte County certainly is no stranger to the impact of wildfires. And over the course of that time, letting people know what's going on, what they need to do in terms of evacuations and what the fire behavior has done has really been challenging. It's been challenging for everybody. But Watch Duty has come on the scene and has really taken hold. And so it's pretty cool to have Nick here, who again is the Chief Operating Officer for Watch Duty, to hear what Watch Duty is, if you're not familiar with it, and how it's made and how they do the things that they do. So Nick, welcome. Thank you for coming all the way to Butte County to do this podcast with us.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
So for those who haven't yet discovered Watch Duty as an app, give us a little brief overview of what Watch Duty is.
Yeah, absolutely. So Watch Duty is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We were born in the Sonoma Lake in Napa County in August of 2021, really as a result of the Wildfires fire, but many fires. And it was that challenge to go to different social media platforms and different places to get relevant information about the wildfire and where do I go to sign up for the official county alerts. And so we wanted to aggregate that all into one place, make it easy to get to, and then contextualize it geospatially on a map, showing the evac zones and other relevant information so people can make actionable decisions. And that next year, we moved to the entire state of California. The following year, 11 additional states. Fast forward to today, we're now in 22 states, still continuing on that mission to consolidate wildfire information, but we didn't put fire in the name. We didn't call it fire duty because we knew there was additional disasters that needed that same contextual information aggregated into one place. And so that's really what we're on a mission to continue to do.
Yeah, that all threats approach I think is important because we've certainly come to understand the importance of that. But I mean, for those who aren't real tech savvy, it's an app that you can download on your phone, right?
That's right.
And once you download, then you have access to a whole lot of information that, again, was once quite difficult to find. You'd have to search different apps or different social media sites to get that all together. I want to get into, really the specifics of Watch Duty and all the features associated with it. But I think I want to start with why. Why do you guys do this?
It's one of those for the people, by the people. But we all live in the wildland. We've been evacuated by fires. Our friends, our families have, and we've all kind of suffered from that same challenge. Where do I go? Mm-hmm. And worse off, what if you're not at home? What if you're vacationing somewhere, visiting relatives, and you just don't know where to go? And so, you see those challenges with information sharing. You see, previously there was twice daily updates from fire agencies, but by the time they came out in the afternoon, much of that information was out of date. And so we wanted to help everybody and get it in one place. And we always said, there's people that have attempted to do things like this, but all they want to do is monetize it and make money off disaster. And so we said, we're always going to be free. We're never going to put ads in the app. We're not going to sell fire hoses and toasters while people are evacuating. We just want this easy to get to, no barriers to entry, so we don't ask for people's name, email, anything. You download the app, and you start receiving notifications. And we just wanted to be the difference. Mm-hmm. Not try to make a difference, but just be the difference.
Yeah, information is critical in these situations. We've certainly found that to be true here in Butte County. We use an emergency mass notification system to communicate with people, which I'm sure you follow as well, right?
That's right.
Our social media platforms, we put information out. Obviously, we collaborate with the traditional media. What we found is that you have to communicate across a lot of platforms in the hopes of reaching a lot of people. And it seems like Watch Duty has the ability to pull all of that in and is one source for that. And that was the goal, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It really wasn't let's replace anybody, but let's be an inherent redundancy by just aggregating this stuff and then storing it on our servers. So in the event that something goes wrong with one of the many notification systems that are available, it's still there on Watch Duty. And so that's what we wanted to be, is kind of use our nerd superpowers to, hey, let's do what they're doing and bring it into our space. So no matter what, there's resiliency there.
Yeah. So I have Watch Duty actually on both my work phone. As a matter of fact, the sheriff's office, all of the phones that we issue to our staff members have Watch Duty downloaded on it already, and it's part of the what we have available to us to keep track of things and have situational awareness. I have it on my personal phone as well. But you go to the App Store, right? So if you have an Apple phone, you go to the Apple Store and you can download it from there, right? If you have a Android phone, I'm sure you can get it from there as well, correct?
That's right.
How else do you get it? Is there any other ways?
Yeah, so you can use it on a computer too. So if you go to app.watchduty.org, you just pop right into the map. No downloading, and you can use it anywhere.
You talk about no barriers to entry, which I think is another important thing. What we find is oftentimes the subscribership, I guess if that's the right term, for our emergency mass notification system, or even for that matter, the likes and follows that we get on our social media pages, skyrockets during emergency situations. And it's almost like, hey, I'm scrambling to figure out what's going on. And I know that, I know the sheriff's office has done a lot of work to try to get people to download this app beforehand, understand their zone, all those kinds of things as well. But it doesn't happen until it's at a critical point in time. Do you guys experience the same kind of thing?
Yeah, we do. We experience the exact same thing. But what's exciting is we really zoom into those different systems, whether it's Code Red, Rave, or the various other mass notification systems, and say, like, what are your subscriber counts look like, and what happens post-event? And you see that people either unsubscribe or they switch devices, they don't get things on, and so there's not a consistency to keeping those services engaged, and some folks can't figure out how to sign up for them. But we see that huge spike in an incident and then kind of a plateau, and nothing happens in that community, onesie, twosie kind of thing.
For sure.
But, then nothing till the next event.
And then it blows up.
Then it blows up.
Exactly. So before we leave the why, you talk about you live in an area that is prone to wildfire. And for that matter, I think all of California is probably, at this point, especially given what transpired back down in the Palisades and the Eaton fire, I think that perhaps Southern California thought they might have been immune to these kinds of things, but now we know that if you live in California, or for that matter, probably the western states, you have to contend with or deal with the prospect of wildfire.
That's accurate.
Right. Yeah. And so the motive behind this, or the impetus to do this, were you or anybody related to Watch Duty in terms of the initial starting of the enterprise directly impacted by wildfire?
Yeah, so I come from an agricultural background. Prior to joining Watch Duty, I spent the last 10 years of my life managing the largest organic dairy farm in Northern California. So cattle are not overly understanding when you tell them it's time to leave this field because you're in danger.
Exactly.
So you need as much time as possible.
Absolutely.
Right? Our CEO and co-founder, John Clark Mills, he comes from a Silicon Valley background, rich in tech, which is wonderful, but he moves to the wildland, and then he starts seeing helicopters flying over from different events and can't really find much information. He does, 10, 12 hours later. And so the Walbridge fire was really the breaking point there, because he was evacuated. He spent it all night, where's the fire at? What's going on? Where's the next place? And the fire was moving so quickly, and there was so many fires in the region. This is the same year as the glass fire and the LNU lightning complex as a whole. So information is challenging, because in many instances, the public information officer is an army of one.
Yep.
Right. And so in the frustration of gathering information and wanting to go into an evacuated area just to get an update, he said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And you go through comments of space lasers and everything else, and it becomes really challenging. Misinformation starts weighing over the top of the real information. And, panic kind of sets in, and he saw communities being affected by that misinformation or speculation. And so it was like, how do we get people information that doesn't have a comment section attached to it, and we can keep it clear and concise and aggregated from those official sources? And so I think that was the real driving factor for John to say, we're going to figure this out, and right now.
Yeah. So that's so interesting, because there's a lot that you said there that resonates with me. Being a law enforcement official who has to put information out, obviously, as I said, we try to give updated and timely information out through our emergency mass notification system or through our social media platforms. But there's this balance between gathering information, making sure it's accurate, and then putting it out. Because when you're the official government source, you have to be really careful about making sure that what you put out is as accurate as possible under the circumstances. But then when you get into these large fires or large disasters, all hazards, if you will, gathering up the information and getting it into a consumable format takes time, and it really only lends itself to 1 or 2 media briefings per day from that standpoint, right? But there's a lot of things that go on in between all of that. And I think that's the area that you guys are trying to focus in on, and making sure that there's some timely updates, including the official stuff and including the press conferences, but the stuff that's coming up in between all those periods of time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really the niche.
It's also, I like the fact that, you recognize that social media, has played a huge role in the way we communicate now. And there's a lot of benefits to it, but there's a lot of downsides to it. And you mentioned the comment section and how very quickly information can be misconstrued and can devolve into rabbit holes that have really no relevance or are actually misinformation and harmful to people. We've certainly dealt with that. I love the fact that you talked about the lasers, because that was, I remember in the campfire was something we had to deal with, this conspiracy theories of lasers setting fire to paradise and how that ultimately dealt with. But you guys don't have to deal with any of that, because it's just you're putting out the information that you get, and you don't have to worry about people hijacking the conversation, so to speak.
That's right.
Yeah.
We maintain control, for lack of a better term, but it's for clarity,
Yeah.
right?
So tell me about the various features. A lot of layers. There's a lot that goes into the information on Watch Duty. What are the various sources of information that you pull from to put together that consumable package of information that's getting put out to everybody?
Yeah, no, it's really a myriad of sources, and some of them are kind of complementary, and some of them are aggregated official sources.
Okay.
So
Okay.
in the initial attack of a wildfire, you have, responding agencies getting there. Many times personnel aren't on scene, but we're using the Alert West, Alert California camera network.
Okay.
Born right here in Chico, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
But we get those AI detections, and so we're investigating, and you see this large growing column. So we may not always wait for a resource to get on scene. We can tell a story with the camera.
Okay.
There's a vegetation fire reported, because no one's confirmed it yet, in this area, and here's a view from that camera. As soon as a resource gets on scene, whether it's an engine company or a battalion chief, they're giving a report on conditions. The fire's 5 acres with a moderate rate of spread. No structures are currently threatened, right? And so we're verbatim putting that per incident command, per arriving engine.
Okay.
And that's really important to us, right? Like, who is it? Is it the arriving engine or a battalion chief? Because, that's kind of dictating experience. On the citizen side, reading that, it might not mean as much, right? It's fire's 5 acres. That's what they're hearing. But then when you have other responding agencies also watching along with Watch Duty, yourself, as you mentioned, now you're seeing, okay, an engine company reported that. What's the battalion going to say, right? And so you're waiting for that stream of updates. Then as a PIO comes on scene, we're sometimes fast forwarding hours in advance. Then we're getting those aggregated updates off of Twitter, X, whatever it's calling itself, Facebook, and putting that out and linking back to it. So then people can go follow that page should they choose to, but knowing that it'll come through Watch Duty as well. Now that's the official information side, right? Then we have a partnership with Virus.
With what?
Virus. So it's I'm going to forget that acronym, so I'm not even going to try, but there's 2 aircraft in the state that Cal OES funded. They were born out of the Orange County Fire Authority. They have advanced sensory on them. Many of the folks on the aircraft are retired from the military.
Okay.
A lot of the same technology is being used, and so these aircraft are dispatched to initial attack fires, and they stream live video back to the fire incident command, law enforcement if they'd like as well. And then they're also mapping the fire. So in real time, they're seeing the progression, any spot fires that might not be able to be seen through the smoke. There's an advanced infrared sensor on there. And so it gives this whole new piece of situational awareness. So we get the live video, and we also get the perimeters off those aircraft. So the video doesn't go in the app. It's sometimes can be viewed as theatrical and not overly helpful, but the perimeters are. So they finish mapping a fire. Within moments, you have a perimeter. This is where the fire is. And so now everybody has additional situational awareness. But there's things that are not being said on radio traffic. Virus is maybe not overhead, but We have satellite hotspots that are 30 minutes old now.
Okay.
This is a recent update as the last couple of weeks. They used to be 4 to 6 hours. Now we have 30 minutes. So I recently had a CAL FIRE battalion chief from NEU call and say, how'd you guys get the pin on that fire? We spent 2 hours looking for it, and you guys had the pin right where it was. And so we talked about some of the satellite technology that we have, and that's through NASA, right? We're not telling a story about it, but it's there on the map. And
Right.
so it's additional vetting to the signals that we're getting of these events. Many times, the fire personnel aren't talking about the direction of travel of the fire, east to west. They're sometimes referencing roads, but that's more in rapidly evolving situations. But when you see a fire pin on the map, the watch duty flame, and then you have surface winds. That's another one that we do. We use an advanced weather model. It's called the HER, and that shows the surface wind depiction. So you can say, okay, well, I'm on the right side of this flame. Our maps are always oriented north.
Okay.
So you can now see the winds blowing towards you and get additional contextual information to take action. Red flag warnings, those can be precursors to events. That's maybe a heightened sense of awareness. You're going to make additional plans. We show those on the map. So there are all these things to help you take action, right? And then we've added additional things to sustain ourselves. So I mentioned everything that we do life-saving wise is free. We'll never charge for it, but you can pay for a $25 a year membership. We add flight tracking. We unlock unlimited counties from the 4 counties that we give away. And that helps sustain our business. But a lot of people think firefighters aren't fighting this fire, especially up in mountainous areas.
Right.
Well, there is aircraft there, right? It's just inaccessible to foot
And
traffic.
crews, yeah.
Yeah, or it's going to take them a while to get there.
Yeah.
But there is aircraft suppressing it, and so that has allowed us to tell another story, and now we'll screenshot that and share it. Our biggest goal is to show folks that there is a response there, here's what's happening, but also give the updates so they can take action, whether it's moving animals, family, so on and so forth.
Well, that's pretty incredible. Actually, there is a lot of sources of data that you're pulling in, as you said, to tell the story about what's going on, but also allow people the opportunity to make decisions. I think it's fascinating that you're using, the camera systems, satellite systems, radio traffic, official sources. Is there any mechanism by which you pull in civilian accounts of what's going on?
So we do. We offer user submitted photos, but we guard it heavy.
Okay.
So you can't go in your photo album and send a photo. You have to take it right there live.
Got it.
When you do that, it's the only time that we collect any data. We don't
Okay.
collect any user data, but when they take a photo, we get the geo tag off of it. We want
So
to
you know where it is.
Yeah, and where they're looking. So the
Okay.
azimuth of the photo and where they are. And so, if it's looking through a windshield and there's a bunch of dead bugs on it, maybe not the best, right? Because it becomes challenging to tell the story and
Sure.
people kind of look at it. But if we start getting that 360 view, there might be things that our users are seeing that the incident command of the fire is not seeing.
Okay.
And so we want to get those on the map or post them within the incident. And so you can see, from the west side, that's what this fire looks like. I can't see that on the east side. There's a ridge in between us. And so, we're trying to show people that, but also guard it as well.
Okay. And I'm assuming also in terms of the metadata, not only the location, but ensuring that it's taken at that time and that date that it corresponds with the fire. So you've got some level of certainty or at least confirmation that it's good intel, right?
Yeah.
The thing about that I think is really interesting. You're pulling all of us in there. Is there anything on the Watch Duty app that lets people understand all of the sources of data and informs them in a way that they can make better use of it? So, for example, you said, you can determine the wind direction of a particular fire, right? And you talked about most people go, okay, the fire is 5 acres. Well, a 5-acre fire with the wind pushing it that way means something different to me if I live here versus if I live there, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And is there anything on Watch Duty that, like a tutorial or a frequently asked questions that help people kind of make better use of the information you're providing?
Yeah, there's both. So there's the frequently asked questions. A lot of the times people are like, what are these red blotches on the map? You look like somebody spray painted the map. Well, those are the satellite hotspots, right? Yeah. But one of the most important things I think that helps people understand the context, we do have a video as well that walks through the whole app, but we added evacuation zones last year.
Got it.
Because one of the most challenging things we saw from people is you get fire personnel that are requesting evacuations from law enforcement because, state of California, the sheriff's responsible for carrying those out.
Yep.
Fire, of course, requests them. But they'll say, I want everything, north of Highway 88, west of Highway 50, all these different things. And people are like, okay, great. They hear those buzzwords. Those are the highways they travel. They understand. About halfway into the frantic packing, they say, well, which way is north?
Right.
And so we started to understand people didn't understand cardinal directions all the time, and especially in a time of duress. And so we started combing through evacuation systems all over, whether it was the Genesis product or, you guys use ArcGIS here in Butte County.
Yeah.
And so we monitor your site constantly.
Okay.
Every 15 seconds. And so if there's a change there, we detect that change. If any of the shapes, if zone 4 has now been reshaped for any reason or split in two, we see those changes and our team can then affect those on the map. And so what people start to see is that flame. I'm in this zone's in a warning, this zone's in an order, and it starts incentivizing people. The most exciting thing that I've seen, I mentioned I come from an ag background.
Yeah.
Ranchers are the most stubborn people in the world.
Indeed.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so now with all this information, they have that time advantage. So they're not shocked, right? Ranchers also don't like to be surprised.
Right.
But by the time that your deputies get there and they're saying, hey, you're in danger and it's time to go, they say, hey, we're just getting the last cattle truck out of here now. And they're not even in a warning yet.
Yeah.
But it allows them to take action. And there's actually examples of this just a couple of weeks ago in the Tuolumne County with the Lightning Complex. There's a guy that sent 8 semi-cattle trucks to go pick up his cows based off our report. Now, they never ended up being in danger, but he said, money well spent. I didn't have livestock insurance, $100,000, but more importantly, it's their lives and my guys' lives while they were moving it. And so we're kind of giving the people who need it that advantage without blowing all these additional alarm bells just by telling the story.
Yeah. That's amazing too. And that's a whole nother area that we could explore because, people often don't recognize the challenge associated with evacuating animals, right? I mean, even their own household pets can be challenging, but when you're talking about livestock, horses and cattle and, other large animals, it's more than just throwing them in your car and getting the hell out of there, right? You gotta, there's a logistics piece to that you really need to have some time to implement if you're going to be successful at getting them out.
Yeah, and I think the most challenging thing when it comes to large animals, right, is trailers.
Yeah.
You put a trailer on a vehicle and backing up becomes much more cumbersome.
Absolutely.
Turning around on a road in an emergent situation becomes near impossible. And so if you can have trailers on these roads when they're not encountering dozer transports and engines and law enforcement and other residents, that's a win.
Absolutely. I'm having been in the middle of mass evacuations and seeing how almost instantaneously, freeways turn into parking lots. The quicker that you can get those big trucks through there, the better that's ultimately going to be. So I'm glad to hear that community is tuning in and taking advantage of the early warning that ultimately, provides. So going back to the zones, because that's something that's an evolution that has occurred in California, and we were part of that. I think Butte County was on the forefront of that. We didn't have zones county-wide during the campfire. It was something that we ultimately learned that we had to do, and trying to describe locations based on geographical points like roads and other features can be very challenging to describe. One, especially describing with limitations that you have through the WIA with the wireless alert system, through your social media, through your emergency mass notifications. Oftentimes they have character limitations that make it really challenging to describe it, not to mention the fact that not everybody knows which way north is, or they may not know. They know the road they live on, but they don't know the bordering roads, right? And so communicating that is very challenging, which is ultimately what got us to the zone system. And we're constantly trying to get people to know their zone, right? And I'm glad to hear that you guys you've incorporated in there. So the maps have the zones on them, correct?
That's right.
And so when you put out, hey, zone whatever is under warning or zone whatever is under an order to evacuate, it shows it right there.
Yep, and it's styled in the color. So red if it's an order, and yellowish color if it's a warning.
Yeah.
We also do shelter in place, which is a lot more common in Southern California, where egress is a challenge.
For sure.
If you evacuate this whole community at the same time, you're going to have gridlock, even with contraflow, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's where shelter in place becomes really important, because you want to specifically say, I need you to stay there right now.
Right.
We're going to get you out of there in a minute, but I need you to stay there. And
right.
communicating that in advance has been successful for them. But those are the 3 levels we recognize here in the state of California.
Okay, that makes good sense. As a matter of fact, if you ever decide to do advertising, if you could advertise to know your zone, that would be fantastic, because we put a lot of effort into getting people to understand and know their zone ahead of time. And it seems like it doesn't matter, no matter what, if a fire pops off, even if a fire pops off in another jurisdiction, our dispatch center gets inundated with calls from people going, hey, what's my zone, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and it happens everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere. In some places it's much worse than others, especially when they change zones frequently.
Yes.
And so I think keeping a static zone set, and of course splitting it as necessary for repopulation or depopulation makes sense. But we see that as a challenge, and we want to figure out how to solve it from a product perspective. So we have several different concepts that we're entertaining, but we want to make it easy. So if somebody says, this is where I am, doesn't matter if you're at Starbucks in town or at your home, this is the zone you're in now.
Right. Okay. So which is a key point, right? You can know the zone at your house, but you know the zone at your kid's school, or that your parents' home, or where you happen to be at that particular time.
Yeah.
Right?
What if you're at your kid's football game
exactly.
in the afternoon? And so it's, where am I now? And then of course having those settings for your kid's school and home and everything else. But we really want people to understand, one of the biggest things for me is I travel all over the state of California and the West. And sometimes I get out of the state and I'm like, what county am I in?
Yeah.
So you really want all the information that you can get when that emergent time comes, because it just ensues calm.
Yes.
The more you have, the more information you have, the more calming that is. And I think that's one of the things that I've admired most and spoke the most highly of Butte County and yourself as well, going back to the Oroville Dam spillway, is I'm going to speak clearly and concisely, and then cut out the opportunity for those assumptions and misinformation. And, we've taken the same approach.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's those very chaotic situations, very, very hard to communicate in that kind of chaos. But what I find is that if we can get to the point and communicate as quickly as possible, ultimately it sets a tone, and it goes much, much better from that. That, kind of brings up, there's this, when you're quick with information, there's always the risk that you're going to be inaccurate with the information, right?
That's right.
How do you balance that?
Yeah, so we have a mantra that we use internally, and it's quality over quantity.
Okay.
Right.
I love
so
that. That's fantastic.
Take the few extra minutes. If it doesn't sound right, it probably isn't.
Yes.
And if you see something, say something. And so, we have a weekly all hands meeting, and people probably are bored to death of hearing me say this week after week, but it means the world to me, and the fact that our team has the patience to do that. And it's hard, right?
It is.
When you're in that moment and you're like, I see things falling apart and I have most of the story, but I don't have all of it, having the self-control to say, we're going to wait a minute is extremely challenging. And I'm a very impatient person in general. And so I find it extremely challenging for myself. But when you see the results of that waiting, even if it's just 2 or 3 minutes, it just makes a huge difference to get that reconciliation of information and really take that moment. So it's something that we preach daily, and everybody exercises through all of our 22 states.
Yeah. So that's obviously the key element that the social media platforms that are out there tend to lack, is that there's no discipline, or a lack of discipline a lot of times, in terms of making sure that it's accurate. And even from a standpoint of the traditional media, because the way media operates now and the way it's funded now, there's a lot of pressure on journalists to get the fact, or to be the first, right? And so even when I speak to our the local media folks who do a fantastic job, but there is pressure on them to get that out there, and they have to also kind of pull that back. I love the fact that that's not your motive. Your motivation is to be as quick as possible but accurate, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And that's you're not driven by trying to beat somebody else to it. You're driven by getting the information in the hands of the people.
Yeah, and we make a lot of selections about the content that we put out to take the theatrics out of it and ensure that it's actionable information and not theatrical. And I don't speak down on the media because they do have a story to tell.
For sure.
There's a difference between showing a flaming front and telling a story of what's happening there.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, a lot of that is how media is funded now, and that's also challenging. That creates some problems with. So you mentioned that. So you're in 22 states.
That's right.
So does that mean you're monitoring potential fires or other disasters in 22 states?
24/7.
24/7, and are all the states in the West?
We end at the Mississippi as
Okay.
our eastern border,
So everything west of the Mississippi.
with the exception of Alaska.
Okay,
Sorry,
fair enough.
Alaska.
What about Hawaii?
Yeah, we do Hawaii.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So then you must have a staff of several thousand people and a budget of $1 billion a year, something along that. Is that about right?
That'd be really nice. I really would.
How do you do this?
It's the most amazing humans on earth have come to one place.
Really?
With a common goal.
Okay.
But we started out with about 8 people.
Okay.
In August of 21, we're at about 318 now.
Okay.
And we have about 29 paid staff.
So of the 318 people who are working to put this together, monitoring it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through 22 states in the United States, you only have how many that are actually paid?
29.
29. Wow. And that's pretty incredible, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you so now I'm thinking, because I run an operation where I have 300 employees that goes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and I'm just covering Butte County, right? How do you ensure that you have people who are monitoring this stuff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in all of the right locations? Do you sign up for shifts? How does this work?
I think this is really where the machines and the humans meet for the best of the best.
Okay.
So we all operate in an internal communication system called Slack.
Okay.
And so it's basically like a giant team messaging system.
Okay.
Speaking to the state of California, we've divided ourselves by the CAL FIRE administrative units. Some of them are multiple units in one. Butte County, the BTU unit, is its own.
Okay.
And so within each one of those, we get signals of a potential new event, whether it's an AI detection from one of the cameras, hopefully not an iPause we alert, but we do have an iPause integration. That's the end of the end.
Okay.
We have aircraft circle detections. We have integrations with Pulse Point, which is basically a agency that has started as a nonprofit to intervene on cardiac arrest. And so they have an app that shows CAD dispatches of vegetation fires as well as medical calls as well. But on the vegetation side, we can see whenever a new call is dispatched from a CAD system comes into us. And then we build our own radio devices that are deployed all over the place. We call them echoes. And so they're monitoring for dispatch tones. They send us alerts into that Slack instance. So, I mean, I could go on all days about the signals that come in.
We
there.
might. I don't know. Let's see what this is about. Yeah.
So these signals come in. They, depending on the call type, they require acknowledgement. And so somebody will then acknowledge that and say, I'm owning this. I'm investigating this call.
Okay.
The majority of the time, it's a roadside spot or something that gets put out in the first 30 minutes. One person can handle that, and then we have some other people that'll come in kind of behind the scenes and assist with that as well. We call them contributors.
Okay.
But then you get incidents like the Park Fire or the Palisades Fire, and what we do is we've structured our staff much like a ICS, an incident command structure. And so it scales up and down as necessary and moves overhead into positions as needed. So we'll enact what's called a rapid response plan. And what that does is it guarantees 24-hour coverage with two-hour overlaps on the coverage so that people have time to brief and fully immerse themselves before the handover happens.
Okay.
And then the next step would be kind of a staffing pattern.
Okay.
So the majority of the time our people have their set days they're here. They take their days off. But in these times we ask for people, hey, can you go to bed right now? And then I need you to start again at 2 a.m. And people are like, absolutely. And they just jump all in on doing it. And so when these rapid response plans start, there's a structure where you have somebody running the incident, doing the reports, a backup person to them should their internet go out, should they need to, have a meal, whatever it might be. Then we have somebody monitoring evacuation systems. We have an agency representative who will immediately reach out to the local agency and say, we're here to help you. What can we do for you? And sometimes the answer is nothing, or sometimes it's, hey, let me add you to this WhatsApp group where we got a nightmare on our hands.
Okay.
And so we just fully integrate ourselves. It's 10 positions, again, 24 hours a day, 12 hours each, 2 hours overlap on each one. And then we rotate through, and that response plan will continue until the fire's threat has been mitigated.
Okay.
We've had instances where that occurred in 3 fires simultaneously. And we handled it without an issue. I think LA was really the true test to our system when we had, not the Palisades and Eaton fire really in the limelight, but there was the Hughes fire. There's all these other fires occurring at the same time.
Right.
And I think that's what really tested us to see if we were up to it. Now, we grow 6% month over month on volunteers. We
Really?
Probably one person a week joining the team at this point.
Okay.
So that elasticity is constantly increasing, but we intervene early and we make sure, because coming from an ag background, I used to have people that would go plant crops, for 24 hours, 26 hours straight. And then they quit at 5 a.m. and then they can't come back till 4, 5, 6 p.m. the next night. It's like, hey, well, that was really great, but what was all that for, right?
Yeah.
And so I think in those moments, especially in disaster moments, it's our job as leaders to come up and put our hand on people's shoulders and say, hey, you've done a fantastic job. Take a rest.
Right.
Right. And so with that system in place and having those staffing patterns, having that rapid response plan and these contingencies, we're able to not push people to their limits and stop them before they do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's allowed us to do this with the team that we have now.
So there's a lot to unpack there, and that is amazing. And so if I understand correctly, you're well invested in technology.
Oh, yeah.
And so technology is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to monitor various sources of information. And then that will alert human beings, hey, you should take a look at this and see if we need to do something with it. Is that a fair assessment of that?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So Echo, is this a proprietary system that you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a little story behind it.
Yeah, let me hear it.
When I joined the team, it was super exciting, right? All of a sudden, there's all these people just doing amazing things with extreme passion. But one of the things that I noticed, and I'll use NEU as the example, the Nevada Placer unit.
Okay.
There's a lot of wildfires starts, right? Because you got Interstate 80, dragging chains, brake fires, the list goes on and on.
Sure.
And so we had a person that would listen to the frequency there every waking hour of the day.
Okay.
But they're waiting for the next vegetation fire response. And in the midst of that, they're hearing, motor vehicle accidents, lift assist, and a lot of other, not great things, right? It's mentally taxing. So It's like, how can we build a system that just tells people when you need to turn on the radio? And that's how Echo was born. And then over time, we started to realize there's more things it can do. So, using the campfire for an example, there's a lot of YouTube radio traffic from the first 2-6 hours, so on and so forth. And when you listen to that, it can seem it was a chaotic situation, right? I don't want to take away from that.
No.
But the feeds that are available online are law enforcement, public works, multiple fire agencies, and so it can make it seem very chaotic and unorganized.
Especially if you don't understand how to listen to all that. Exactly.
Yeah. Or is this law enforcement talking or fire, right?
Yeah.
And so what the echoes do is they separate out each one of those channels into separate. And so when we do send these things online, it's balanced between a left and right ear, and we tell you in your left ear you're hearing, the fire incident command, and your right ear you're hearing air attack.
Okay.
And so we're breaking it all apart. We record that stuff. We send it to Slack. We transcribe it into clear text.
Okay.
But the tone outs are really the secret sauce of the whole thing. So every time that a fire dispatch happens, the dispatch center sets tones for the station. A lot of the old timers call it being tapped out, right?
Yes.
It's different tone sets.
Okay.
So what those do is open the apparatus bay doors and set off the gong, turn on the lights, so on and so forth, gets the fire response started.
Got it.
We intercept those tones and we get an alert at the same time. Whenever a dozer, hand crew, or aircraft are dispatched, it sends an escalated message and says that there's probably a wildland response occurring here.
Okay.
And then it delivers 1-minute audio snippets with all the dead air removed instantly. So as soon as those transmissions stop, they send. So there's no delay.
Okay.
And our team can then listen to those things over and over and over again. Like, what did he say? What were the words used there? What are the cross streets? What are the report on conditions? And so I have a place up in Northern California. We started with one there and one in the East Bay to kind of prove out the concept and build these things and understand what's the range. They also do aircraft tracking. So they track all the fire suppression aircraft and collect their ADS-B data and put it on the map. And we send that all over the place, including the FAA, so they have it as well and augment their systems. But with all this, we're able to get those tone outs everywhere in that early alert. So fast forward to today, we have 37 of them out there.
Okay.
12 of them, it's actually 16, but we'll say 12 for fun now, actually go to fires.
Okay.
One of them is down in Tuolumne County right now. We were fortunate in the Park Fire that we had one in the Red Bluff area that would cover this, but we're able to deploy them and then ensure that we have those communications. We share those back with agencies. We've had agencies, hey, we're going to have a public safety power shut off. We're not going to be able to hear as good in this area. Can you help us out?
Okay.
And so we'll put that thing out there.
Okay. Okay. So hold on. Okay. So an echo is what you call this thing. It's actually a deployable device.
That's right.
And so you send it to a location, and it is picking up radio traffic. So there's some kind of scanner capability to it.
Yeah, what's inside of it is these things called software-defined radio. So going back to the nerd side of
Okay,
things.
that's fine. That's okay.
Instead of using handhelds that are limited to only monitoring one or two channels,
Yeah.
these software-defined radios are able to pull in hundreds of channels simultaneously.
Okay.
And then using computer algorithms, demodulate them into clear audio.
Okay.
But the whole thing is that simultaneous, right? Now I can listen to anything in this bandwidth,
Right.
no matter what. And so we put 7 of those inside each one to ensure that not only we have redundancy in case there's a failure in one, but that we can cover these large band plans from Forest Service to law enforcement.
Okay. So you put it out there. It's listening to everybody talk on the radio. Sounds like is there an AI component to this whole thing in terms of recognizing fires versus other emergency traffic, but not raising to the level of, hey, we need to pay attention to this?
We're almost there.
Really?
So,
Okay. So you were able to do that without AI.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, it's cool, but it makes you sweat. It's a lot of work.
For sure. Absolutely.
But now Google has been a fantastic partner and really wanted to give back to the community. And so what they're doing right now is actually building a specialized AI model to listen to radio traffic, even in challenging staticky conditions.
Okay.
And then be able to transcribe that into text, and then we can go in there and look for keywords like vegetation, brush fire, and say, hey, there was a brush fire on this frequency. Here's a 1-minute audio snippet of 30 seconds before and after. Does this matter?
Okay.
Right. And so AI starts doing a lot of the heavy lifting in those situations. So that's an active effort right now because when you get to these headcount challenges, that's when any augmentation you can have to that, AI especially, is very helpful.
Yeah. So getting back to the whole, within the computers that are contained within the echoes, right? Okay. It understands what those tones mean. It can differentiate between, a tone that is going to send, one engine versus a dozer, those kinds of things, right?
That's right.
And so that causes it to go, hey, wait a second. The dozers don't go out unless there's going to be a wildfire generally, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And once it does that, then it alerts a human being. So that human being doesn't necessarily have to be, quote, on duty, or it just lets them know, hey, you need to pay attention to this, right?
Yeah, some of these people are working full-time jobs.
Not related to watch duty.
That's right.
Yeah. And it also then cleans up the radio traffic, takes out all the dead air, gives them a transcript so they can quickly ascertain whether or not this is something to pay attention to or not. Is that right?
Yep. And then we continue to deliver those 1-minute audio snippets for the average response time plus a few minutes in every area. So like here in Butte County, we send them for 18 minutes.
Okay. And so how many of these do you have?
37 right now, and I think we'll be at 41 by the end of this month.
And are they're spaced throughout the 22 states?
Predominantly here in the West, so Oregon, Washington, Arizona, California, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Idaho, Hawaii, California is spoiled with them, of course.
Well,
Hometown state.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Well, I would notice that Butte has its own. We have our own. Would you say unit?
Everything?
Okay.
Butte has its own everything.
Is that because we are the victims of these things a lot? Is there? It always happens in Butte, or
Yeah, it happens because we'll break incidents into their own Slack channels.
Yeah.
But we've found that because of the level of activity in Butte, it just makes the most sense to have it be independent, so there's never confusion with Tehama County or Shasta County, Glenn County, any of that.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I can understand. So you don't have a headquarters that people work out of. Is that?
That's right.
Right. They work out of their homes or they work out of their offices. Everything is essentially remote, right?
That's right.
If you got a computer and a phone, you can do the work that you need to do to assist watch duty, right?
That's right.
So these Echo units, who deploys them?
I have been the victim of doing most of that.
Okay. All
I
right.
finally had the opportunity to get a brilliant mind on our team to be the project manager and offload it off myself.
Okay.
He's done quite a few, but other volunteers as well. We have people that have rich radio backgrounds and experience, and they've been instrumental in the development of the process and have also deployed these devices.
Okay. And they're pre-positioned. Generally speaking, is that fair?
Yeah, there's all of them except for 12 are pre-positioned.
And the 12 are in reserve so that you can get to an incident and add more capabilities to it? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So other than Echo, you're also, what else are you monitoring that is giving you the, hey, we need to do something with this?
So right now, I actually just looked at this yesterday. We are monitoring 781 agency pages.
Wow.
So we have Facebook integration, we have Twitter, and then we have some custom built tools.
Okay.
And so, Butte County uses Code Red.
Right.
You guys are fantastic with your alert and warning system.
Thank you. I appreciate
Definitely
that.
winning across the 1,476 counties. But
we've had a lot of experience.
Yeah. So, your Code Red feed, we monitor that.
Okay.
So in the event that we have missed everything else,
Yeah.
we're getting it there, but then we can also look and ensure that we want to basically copy and paste.
Okay.
If a community member here in Butte County gets a Code Red, Alert FM, GMRS, the laundry list of places it comes through, I want them to go to Watch Duty and see the same thing.
Got it.
So they're not saying, why is the county telling me this and Watch Duty saying this? That's the last thing that we want in any area.
Absolutely. Continuity of content is an important thing. Absolutely. Yeah. And so that's being monitored electronically and then alerts somebody, hey, we need to pay attention to this, right?
Yep. So we can add keywords in there if we want to just monitor for evacuation. Some pages have a lot of local content, which you can appreciate,
For sure.
right? Events, things. We don't want to, litter our channels with that. It becomes noisy. People start ignoring things. Again, last thing we want. So we add keywords to those pages. We have a very powerful tool that we can basically monitor any public page there is.
Okay. And so that is being directed, I'm assuming, if your technology detects a fire or some other issue in a particular area, it then would direct it to a volunteer who is close to that area or has said, hey, I'll cover this kind of area. You don't have somebody from another state that's generally going to be paying close attention to what's going on in California, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there's reporters and contributors. So
Okay.
the reporters are the one who actually post within the app. They go through annual training. They go through a long training process to become a reporter. And then there's contributors. And the contributors sometimes are people who maybe shouldn't be in the group, right?
Okay.
But they want what's best for their local community.
Okay.
And so they're saying, hey, just so you know, here's what's happening.
Okay.
And here's the local knowledge. We haven't had a fire in that drainage in 30 years.
Okay.
And so you start to understand, okay, this is a big deal, and queue up some more people.
Okay.
It is very common that you have somebody from the local area on every incident.
It is common or not common?
It is common.
It is common, okay.
But they may not be reporting on it because of those reasons discussed, right? So
Understand.
I got Michael Sylvester's in New Zealand.
Okay.
We use him for the time zone advantage.
Okay.
He was the CA fire scanner. A lot of people knew him on Twitter, right? And he's still there as well. But now he's with us. And so does he have intimate knowledge of Butte County? Well, yes, because he's covered fires here for numerous years.
For sure.
But he's not on the ground. He's never been to California, right?
Okay.
So we have people who are local to Butte County
Okay.
who then augment the information he's getting and say like, hey, this spot catches on fire once a week. It'll be out in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a habitual area, right? And we can start to understand where those spots are and where they occur. But the ripe areas for a new start, you need the local knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the response culture is different everywhere too. And that's
sure.
where local knowledge comes in.
Okay.
Because sometimes there's a rift behind the scenes between different fire agencies or law and fire, and understanding that for the purposes of clear, concise information is paramount.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right about that. That's unfortunate, but that does happen. And so the little 5-acre fires they get put out, maybe one person is helping with that. But if it turns into a big situation, then you have this incident management team approach, right?
That's right.
And you have a lot of people who are going to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You talked about managing that whole thing. We're really familiar with that because we have to do that from the response side of it, right? What's the tipping point in terms of when do you go, okay, listen, we need more resources on this?
Usually it's because of loss or the rapid rate of spread.
Okay.
So when we start getting to rapid and critical rates of spread fire, we have alerts set up for the operations side to say, hey, critical was just used in this. And so we have a whole dashboard it shows up on. We have all kinds of gauges and fun stuff we monitor.
Okay.
And so across the 22 states, we can see, here's those incidents we need to watch really close.
Okay.
And then we'll start to escalate that. And we'll say, hey, we need to bring more people on. The Palisades, it happened an hour into the fire. The Park fire, I think it happened maybe 45 minutes in. Okay. So we try to act on it as quick as possible. And I'm always the impatient person saying like, hey, I think we should activate the plan. And then my team's like, hey, wait a little bit. Let's see what happens here.
Okay.
But I want to get in there as early as possible because I'm worried about, people overextending themselves.
For sure. No, that makes sense. We have the similar considerations, from the law enforcement fire side when we're trying to, and we've gotten here in Butte County because we have experienced this so frequently. We do ramp up quickly. We alert and warn much quicker than we used to because we now have a better understanding of what it takes to get that information out and what people's responses are going to be. So I can completely appreciate that. So how does one become a volunteer for the organization?
That's a great question. So we have an application that you fill out on the site.
Okay.
What we'll do is bring you in for a panel interview via Zoom.
Okay.
Again, we're virtual.
Right.
But we really want to make sure that this person, we've gotten to a point now where do people want to join just so their name's on the Watch Duty app? That's the last thing we want.
Okay. Right.
And so it's kind of that vibe check, if you will.
For sure. Yeah.
Let's interview them, do that. Should we decide to move forward, they go through a full background check because we want to make sure they are who they say they are, no nefarious characters. Once the background check concludes, then we just kind of do the legalese documents. And then we bring them in, and it's kind of a slow spin-up process for people because, we have 300 Slack channels, and they want to find, where am I? I'm just going to be in Butte County. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
But kind of getting your bearings there, we have a lot that we do in that regard. But, it takes a little bit for somebody to get on the team and go through the process.
Well, that's good. There should be a vetting process because that's how you're going to maintain integrity, right? That's going to maintain, viability. So I'm glad to hear that. So how, of the 22 states, how frequent or how many official, I guess would be collaborators, do you have? And what I mean by that is people who work inside the agencies who have the ability to connect with you as an incident's going on and provide either firsthand information or make sure the information you're providing is accurate.
I would say about 40 right now.
Okay.
And I say that unofficially, officially, because some people, their agency welcomes them to be here, and some don't exactly want them to be here.
So 40 is not very many.
No.
I mean, you're covering 22 states. That's thousands of fire districts, right? Thousands and thousands of law enforcement agencies. I mean, there's a lot of official agencies that just you don't have a direct connection with, right?
Right.
So of the 40, and Butte County's one of them, right? We have somebody, and I fully support that. I want to communicate across as many platforms as I possibly can because I recognize not everybody listens to one platform, right?
Yep.
And I want the information to be consistent. I want the information to be accurate. And the fact of the matter is in those circumstances, we have the exact same goal, right?
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. And so generally speaking, how does my collaborator collaborate with you?
It's, text message, phone call, whatever it takes. I mean, I answer my phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have paging and escalation systems.
Yeah.
So it's impossible not to get a hold of me. And then we also have other people to be able to do that as well. But I think, 40 is not a lot, right?
It's not. But what do you think about it? Yeah.
But I appreciate it at the same time because, like, as we've talked about trust and integrity, I don't expect us to be born in August of 21 and people be like, hey, we trust you. We're going to put somebody with you. And so we've had to take the time to prove ourselves. We're not here, to profiteer off a disaster. And this is who we are. We're real people. We're not just, tech people saying, oh, here, we're going to solve this problem. And so 2 years ago, that number was probably 2.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, I get you to build it out.
Yeah, and we had to build it out and prove that trust and talk to these people constantly. And then coming to us and people really bending the rules in their organizations to become a champion and say, yeah, they're doing that good because I've been, letting them know what's going on. And a lot of that collaboration isn't telling anybody anything secret. It's saying like, hey, we're going to sync our watches right now. And when that moment comes, when the hour or second hand strikes, we're going to send that message at the same time with the same exact verbiage.
Yeah.
And that just makes the community more resilient. So every place where this relationship exists, I think the community sees it and appreciates it because, there's places where there is collaboration, but there's one agency that has a problem with it. Right. Yeah. And I'm not going to point to certain areas, but it creates a real challenge, right? And at the end of the day, you said it yourself, we're all here for the same reason. So as soon as that becomes clear, the relationship, the handshake happens and then great things. And I've used Butte County for an example all over the place, and it's actually helped in other areas for people to be like, oh yeah, I really appreciate Sheriff Honea there, and I want to do the same thing. And Southern California is a great example of that. And so we've provided redundancy in their technology. We've embedded our map on their site because their map failed during the wildfire events. And so their map's still there, but ours is underneath it. So if one fails, the other one's there. And collaboration, I think, is what this business is all about. It's not competition, right? It's how can we collaborate to get clear, concise messaging to our communities. And so Butte County has been an excellent example of that, probably because of the amount of events that have occurred here. But the lessons that you've learned and taken to other states, like, I got a phone call, I think it was last year, you spoke up in Oregon, and, I'm getting calls from OSFM up there. And it's really taking the lessons that you've learned and allowing others to not be burnt by touching the hot stove, right?
For sure.
And so we're trying to offer that same piece as well. Hey, we're in 22 states. We see the wins and losses everywhere. And if you want to see a win, go look at Butte County and see how they do it, because it's by any means necessary. What's Alert FM? People ask me all the time, and you tell them what this device is, and they're like,
right.
Like, that's mind-blowing because it's going back in technology, but it's also bringing it forward as well. And so I think that progressive mindset has enabled your community to become more resilient, regardless of what happens to property. Right, life is the paramount thing here.
Yeah. We have, like I said, you bring up Alert FM. We're trying to message against so many across so many platforms because we've learned that's ultimately how we do. So I'm curious, and I don't want you to, I'm not asking you to throw anybody on their bus, but when you've gotten pushback from either fire agencies or law enforcement agencies, what's been the chief reason that they don't want to officially collaborate?
They want the information to come from their outlet first, and then us to. I have gotten from some. We put this on Facebook. You can just get it there.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, sure, but we monitor Facebook at a certain interval, right?
Yeah.
And so the goal is to have that consistent messaging. So I'm not interested in competing to see who can get it out quicker. I'm interested in having matching messaging.
Yeah.
Right. And so if it comes out from us 10 minutes after it does on your Facebook page, it starts to become challenging for who should I follow?
Yeah.
And I don't want people to make that decision. I want them to follow your pages, our stuff, whatever they want, but I don't want it to be this whole timing thing.
Sure.
Because, there's instances where we may be 5 minutes late or you may be 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
But if we always have our watches synced and we're always a phone call away from one another, then we can always do the best for our communities. And so, I find a lot of frustration in it when it's like, well, we want to be first. And it's like, I can understand where you're coming from in some senses, but we also want to get that messaging out for the purpose of the comment section in the social medias, right? And that's what we're always trying to tell people, like, go look at your comment section, see what people are saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So I can also see, law enforcement administrators, fire administrators going, okay, well, that's just another person I got to keep in the loop, right? Or that's another entity I got to keep in the loop. That's just another burden on my staff or my PI or whatever the case may be. We'll put it out, then you just follow us. I can see that being part of the equation. How burdensome is it to collaborate? It sounds like you've made it pretty easy with text messages. You have the Slack channel. How can you mitigate the additional burden it would be on a law enforcement or fire agency to have that form of collaboration so we're getting the message out together at the same time, reaching as many people as possible?
Yeah, no, and it's a challenge, right? And I recognize that because of that Army of One statement, right? It's just it's an Army of One. But I think a lot of what we've done is built technology against this. So it's one of the things we use AI for. We have a 24/7 phone number for text messages and phone calls and an email address, and the AI will then route that to the appropriate geographic location based on what's put in. And so sometimes it's as simple as a lot of agencies have a mass notification to use internally. They might use Code Red externally for the public, but they have an internal version as well to get overtime staff in, whatever. And so sometimes it's just adding us to those lists and being able to text message us that way, adding us to group distribution lists. But I think the goal we really want to get to is we want to maintain a certain level of control over what comes out of the app. But I see an opportunity for agencies to come into Watch Duty and give information right there. In the app, and then our team just looks at it and says, like, okay, there's no acronyms used here. We basically want to make sure it's understandable by anybody, regardless of the experience, to the layperson, right? And so as we get to that evolution of, okay, we can have one of your agency representatives actually report through Watch Duty. We're just going to make sure that messaging is clear and then immediately hit accept and go. And so we want to do the same thing with shelters too, right? Because shelters are just as challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah. It occurs to me that, it might be good to facilitate some kind of meeting between you guys and the California State Sheriff's Association to see if we can get more sheriffs understanding what it is that the collaboration can do for their communities and how we might be able to streamline that. So maybe that's a conversation for us to have after this, and we can talk about what that might look like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So it's got to cost a heck of a lot of money to do this, right? How do you get your money? How are you funded?
I think, how we get it's really just about doing the right thing. But, after the LA fires, we were faced with $100,000+ server bills from the mass traffic load of people visiting. And Amazon, who provides a lot of that infrastructure, said, hey, we saw what you did and throw that bill in the garbage.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And that was just one story, right?
Sure.
And I can recall after the Palisades fire started, we were on the phone with executives at Salesforce and Amazon and Google getting things done at 10 o'clock at night. And these are people who share that passion at these organizations to make these things happen. So, that reduces a lot of the overhead, right? But there's still operational costs for salaries, things like that. And we've been really beneficial in the philanthropic arena with folks that, can give back in that manner. I mentioned the memberships that we do. We also have a pro side of the app. And the pro side has things that are specific to professionals. Fire progression models, seeing advanced views that the general public isn't going to care about. And so those help us sustain utility companies purchase these things as they work to increase their situational awareness. And so that's really where we want to sustain Watch Duty from is those type of folks as opposed to the community. We want to give those things away for free. And so we're able to do that. We have just over 100,000 members and about 15,000 of the professional users on there.
100,000 people have downloaded and are using Watch Duty, roughly.
Those are the paying ones.
So the paying ones, the paying ones. So you don't keep track of the non-paying ones?
No, we do. So as a whole, since I mentioned we have the app and the website, it's about 16 million.
Wow.
And then on devices, actually downloaded the app. I haven't looked in a bit, but I think we're 6.5 million devices that we're on,
Amazing.
roughly.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people.
A lot of people. Yeah.
It's a lot of traffic.
Well, I'm glad to hear that corporations are coming, stepping up and helping out. I can't imagine the paid subscriptions are covering all the costs. There's no way that's going to happen. Exactly. But I also love the fact that your mission is, to get the word out as many people as possible. So if someone wanted to help out financially, is there a way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can go on to the Watch Duty website. So it's watchduty.org. And there's a donate section. I think it may just be /donate.
Okay.
But really, if you can benefit from the membership,
yeah,
we really appreciate that. Benefit yourself and help us at the same time.
Yeah, fantastic.
You get the flight tracking, unlimited stuff. Maybe you don't need all that, but that $24.99 goes a long way for us.
I bet it does. All right, so we've been talking for close to an hour now. Time flies, right, when you're talking about things like this. So before we start to close it up a little bit, I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how they can access it or how they can download. So one more time, how do you actually get Watch Duty access if you don't already have it?
Yeah, so from any one of the app stores, you can just search Watch Duty. It comes up right in the top there. Download it. You don't need to give us your information at all. It'll walk you through the setup step by step. There's arrows and fun ways to help you get signed up for things. If you're on a desktop computer, you can just go to app.watchduty.org. All of these resources are at watchduty.org. There's buttons for each one of the app stores. And you can get right in there. And then my recommendation is set up the county that you're in, anyone that you have loved ones in. You're able to drop pins on the map for those places of interest, kids' school, place of work, home. I have pins littered all over my map, my friends throughout the state. And I suggest everybody does that. And pay attention, because when there is those moments, emergent moments, the evacuation notes section will show you how to sign up for, if you're in Butte County, code red alerts.
Okay.
Any county that you're in, because we want you to have all the resources available to you, and we're going to put those right in front of you.
Fantastic. Can we get a link to how to know your zone? Is that possible?
It's in the works.
Is that okay? Sounds good.
It's in the works.
That would be fantastic. All right, awesome. And then if you want to be a volunteer, go to the website and fill out the application and go from there. And if you want to donate, there's a way to do that as well. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Nick, I can't tell you, this has really been a fascinating conversation. I think so many people in California are impacted by wildfires. And there's the prospect of you being able to provide information on other hazards too, right? Have you had to provide information on other kinds of natural disasters?
I think the closest that we've stepped out of the wildfire is the Moss Landing battery event.
Okay.
Because it's really anything that can affect life or property, right? So there's a toxic plume of lithium battery smoke. Yeah. But as we move into springtime, flooding's on the horizon.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah.
And so flooding is going to be the next disaster that you see Watch Duty move into.
So all the more reason to download Watch Duty, understand what's going on, what the hazards are, and what you can do. So anyway, man, this has been a fantastic episode. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Really fascinating. You guys are doing God's work, and we appreciate that. I'm proud to be a collaborator with Watch Duty, and we're going to continue to support that. So thank you very much. And for everybody there, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sheriff's Mic. If you did, like it and share it and tell everybody else about it so that we can get the word out. But until next time, you're cleared to talk. Thank you.